have the exact numbers because it's just been behind the scenes, like in passing conversations.
Sure.
But we're talking about such a small amount that Tampa was willing to put up to help the stadium happen in any capacity. And I know you mentioned the land, but just on the money side, like Tampa has never put up an even close to significant amount of money to get the deal done on this side. And
you are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Rays podcast. And today we have the pleasure of being joined by Zac Blobner at a very opportune time for Tampa Bay Rays baseball. I think a depressing time with all that's gone on right now. But besides that, Zac, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. You know, I got 2 feet on the ground and I'm above it. So I'm happy right now. Things are going fine, guys.
We have loads to get into. There's the Siri trade. Trisha Whitaker's gone. We have 40-man roster questions. We also have, of course, WDAE memories. We've got baseball trivia. We've got Name That Award. But up first, Zac, we got to talk about the stadium talk. First, this we were talking before we got started. I don't think it's a hot take to say that this is one of the most chaotic days in franchise history, like you said. I mean, can you just walk us through how you're handling this tweet after tweet, change after change, unanimous vote after unanimous vote? Like, how are you handling this whole thing?
Yeah, I think I'm the least optimistic I've probably ever been after today specifically that baseball is staying in Tampa Bay. I've always been on the side of like, they'll figure it out. You know, I've bought into pretty much every proposal they've come out with over the last 15 years. And I just tend to err on the side of positivity anyways. I think that's a good way to approach life. And there's enough losses in sports to bring us down. So I try to lean into the good vibes, the positivity. And even through different, council votes and proposals, I'm aware that, and I think we all are, there's a certain politician element to these talks when it comes to a stadium situation. So I take everything with several grains of salt when these chats arise, these votes arise. That all being said, again, walking away from today's meeting and basically seeing them approve the roof to be fixed, Brian Auld, team president for the Rays, stepping up and say, yeah, the deal's basically dead. Like, this isn't going to happen. There's no point to do the roof. Them revoting and being like, yeah, we're not doing the roof. And it just feels, and just watching the body language too of Brian Auld, I've had the pleasure of being around him quite a bit through work. Like, guys, it feels like baseball might be really dying in the area in a way where it's leaving. And I've never felt that way to this level before.
If you had to blame, like, who are we putting the most blame on here? Is it Stu, the elected officials, the hurricane, or does everybody, multiple hurricanes, I should say, is everybody need to share some of the blame with all this? Because it's just, by the hour, it seems like I changed my mind on, no, it's the elected officials' fault. No, it's Stu's fault. No, well, the hurricane caused all this. Like, where do you stand with this?
Yeah, I definitely think there's enough to point fingers at everybody, right? Like, especially if you're talking about the entirety of the situation. For the sake of this chat, I think it's fair to focus mostly on like why we are specifically having the issues we are today in the last couple of weeks. And like, in my opinion, at least with all the info we have up to this point, and listen, there might be more info we find out in the coming weeks, coming months, and maybe it's a little different. But as of right now, I put the majority of blame on the Hurricanes, because if the Trop roof doesn't get ripped up, we know they're playing there for the next 3 seasons. They can start working on the stuff they have to for a new stadium. The bonds vote isn't getting delayed. Like, I just don't think the dominoes fallen away where this deal even has the opportunity to fall apart. Now, that's a hypothetical world that we'll never get to see play out. So who ultimately knows if there still would have been issues, right? Even if the Hurricanes didn't cause the damage that they did. But we can directly say that those hurricanes and the damage they caused to the Trop's roof, directly led us to these bonds being delayed, to the new council, the fact that it happened right before the election too. Like, what are the chances?
Right.
I know hurricane season, so I guess they're pretty good, but to the level that they happen, I mean, again, for me, I just felt like it set off a set of dominoes where, and y'all know, we've been through so many different variations and votes and all these different things, not just for this version of the stadium plan, but multiple others. It always feels delicate. You never think it's done until it's done.
Yeah.
We've been saying when we see shovels in the ground, like, we'll all really fully believe it. But until then, but I had moved past. I was fully confident. I was like, I don't even need to see the shovels. Like, the deal's done. They agreed. They agreed in public.
Yeah.
But an act of God changed things. And I blame the Hurricanes more than anything, because I can be empathetic to both sides. And to be honest, guys, there's a lot of jargon when it comes to the legal side and the political side of why these decisions are being made. And I understand some of it, but not all of it. But what I do understand is the fact that, St. Pete, I'm empathetic to the Hurricanes and other things needing repaired. If you're the Rays, I understand too their situation of, like, we have this massive infrastructure we're ready to set in place to build. And if we're pushing this off till next year, and there's not a guarantee with new council members on board that we'll even get those bonds, like, they have to delay the project. So I understand both sides and why we're here. The one thing I can point to, though, that is similar for both of them is the Hurricanes screwing this up.
You talked about past deals, and of course, there have been plenty. With this whole St. Pete saga seemingly just coming to an end, obviously there's a section of fans who mostly live in Hillsborough County who are saying, maybe this is our shot once again. And it feels that section of Rays fans forgets that there are two important things to this equation, which is, number one, and most importantly, money, and number two, land. And that section of fan base seems to forget both of those things. So say there's a bunch of those fans that want the stadium in Tampa, and they don't want to recognize those 2 points. What do you, Zach, say to them?
Well, you're living in a reality that doesn't exist. That's a fantasy world. I mean, and I always preface this chat about the Tampa versus St. Pete side and where the stadium should be. I've been going to Rays games since I was in high school in the early 2000s, and I made the trip from Riverview, right? Like, I've driven over both bridges. I've taken the Skyway down 75. I've taken through Tampa. Like, I've gotten to Rays games every which way. And look, sometimes it's a brutal drive. Like, I get all that, but I love baseball and I love watching this team. So for me, I've never subscribed to the idea of, like, that being a good enough excuse to not get to games. But I understand why, it could be a deterrent for folks. So I preface it with that. Secondly, everybody always wants it in Tampa, including the Rays. And there's even people on the St. Pete side that we've had on the record in the past mention that they understand why Tampa, and there's a groundswell of people in places that want it in Tampa. The bottom line is, though, is Tampa, at least in this current iteration of the deal in the stadium that's trying to be built, the amount of money that they stepped up with, in air quotes, to make this deal happen at different points, I'm telling y'all, like, I don't have the exact numbers because it's just been behind the scenes, like in passing conversations, but we're talking about such a small amount that Tampa was willing to put up to help the stadium happen in any capacity. And I know you mentioned the land, but just on the money side, like, Tampa has never put up an even close to significant amount of money to get the deal done on this side. And, I think that, like, without that, it's just not feasible. I also, and I've pointed this out multiple times over the years, because I was in Ybor when they had the Race 2020 club, and, like, there was all this stuff going on. I know candidly that behind the scenes, like, Stu feels like he screwed up during the Ybor thing, not publicly, putting money down to get the deal done, especially knowing the construction costs and how they've all risen and how much more expensive it is to make a stadium now. Like, he kicks himself for not being more proactive on a financial level to get that deal done. So he does shoulder, I think, internally, some of the blame for the Ybor side. And that was an area where maybe Tampa would have met him a little bit closer, but that feels like forever ago now. And again, this current situation, Tampa's never stepped up in a way. And I've talked to all kinds of people behind the scenes over the last few years. Like, again, the numbers of, like, whatever number you're thinking Tampa came together with behind the scenes to help a stadium potentially get built on this side, cut it in half and then probably cut it in half again. Like, it's so low. The land one is an interesting issue because they've had different options. I think the land's a little bit easier to figure out. And that's not to say it's easy to figure out, but easier than the money side. It's weird though. So one of the things that really threw me off about the e-board plan originally versus now is some of the measurements that MLB has for like stadium height and things of that nature. And that's where I think they've run into issues with e-board and looking at sites nowadays, even though it wasn't that long ago. It's just things change and city requirements change. So there's some measurement issues they started to run into when they were looking at both sides of the bay. So the land is a big issue. But again, I say this once, I say it a million times. Everybody, including the Rays, knows that the team would be better off in Tampa. But at the end of the day, there isn't, nor has there ever been serious money to make that happen from either side, bluntly.
Right, it is time to tell you about FanDuel, our friends over there. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. That is America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Kevin, we all have to do something to make ourselves feel better. And because we're getting old in age, sometimes the body doesn't work as it used to. And we got to get aligned, and we have to go somewhere where there are no scheduling hassles, where there are no insurance hassles, where they can see you in the evening after work, in the weekends without an appointment. Walk-ins are cool. I just don't know what that name of that place is. Kevin, can you help me out?
There's only one place, and that is the Joint Chiropractic, if I'm sure.
That is correct, Kevin. That is correct. And guess what? If you're a Rays fan, if you're a Bucks fan, they've got a tremendous promo for you. You can get your first visit for $19. I know you guys spend more on that on fast food, okay? So $19, something good for your body, okay? You head over to Buccaneers.com. You check out the contest and promotions section under the fans tab. You download this offer. It's a great deal for great fans. Head to thejoint.com to find your nearest Tampa area location today.
2025, we know that the Rays are playing in Steinbrenner Field, so we get a good year of them on the Hillsborough side, Tampa side of things. 2026 seems questionable, and then years after that seem questionable. Any idea or direction as to where the Rays are going to go with all this?
Yeah, so I think the part that maybe to kind of advance the conversation here that was lost into the shuffle today with chat and with the voting and with everybody online having their opinions is that this lease at the Trop is going to be up. Like, so now if they're saying, oh, we can't have this built until 2029 at best, well, and we kind of knew this was another thing that was never really said out loud, but it was very commonly known in those circles is that, okay, well, if the deal was in place and they were building the stadium, and let's just say delays happened like in the construction process and they had to play at the Trop for another year, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Same people would be like, all right, right? Like, you're building it here. We get it. Things happen. Now, that was when the Trop had a roof and they could play there.
Right.
The lease hasn't changed. If they don't have a roof, and even if they do have a roof, if there's no plan in place for a future stadium, like, I don't think St. Pete's going to allow them to just keep playing at the Trop after their lease if they think the team is leaving, let alone if they know for sure the team is leaving. So that timeline hasn't changed. And that's the part that I think makes this all extremely interesting. And it's why I was so over the top confident throughout 2024 that the deal was going to get done and they were going to build the stadium, because they literally don't have any time left. They have to start building now, right? So, I mean, we can all have our opinions, but there's a hard timeline here with the lease and how long it takes to build a stadium. So that's a mess. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't think the Rays have any idea what they're going to do right now. The city of St. Pete, I don't think anybody really has a clue. To your point, the only thing they do know is they're playing in the Yankees spring ballpark, Steinbrenner Field, for 2024 or 2025.
Mhm.
Now, they could honestly play there again in 26 and potentially 27. So that is kind of a simple solution to get them through if the Trop isn't able to be played in because they don't fix the roof or whatever. So that's the easy answer there. But again, that's not a long-term solution. And I would assume after, let's just say 3 years max, the Yankees are going to be like, what the hell? Get out. So, but, and again, because you have to have things figured out, you could look at that and say, okay, well, then they have 3 years potentially in that stadium to figure it out. Well, no, because they have to have it figured out far enough ahead of time to either A, build a new stadium, or B, transition into wherever they're going next or whatever they're going to do next. So, yeah, on a small level, they could play there for 3 seasons, but macro conversation, like, no idea, guys. It's a mess right now.
I'm at the point, Ulises and Zach, that and this is very naive of me, but maybe MLB can step in and say, okay, the Rays say they're dealing with possible cost overruns. Maybe something can be worked out league-wide to make it all get situated. But based on listening to, I've never listened to as many outside of my full-time job. I've never been this intent on focusing on a city council or city commission meeting as I've been this week, just with all the comments and everything else. I'm surprised the streams didn't break like the Netflix fight last week.
Right.
But I get the impression that St. Pete and Pinellas County are getting to the point where, okay, we're acknowledging that you all don't want to be here or can't be here for whatever reason. We just want to make sure that Stu cannot profit off the redevelopment. I think that is like the big play here now going forward. If the deal is as dead as what Brian Auld and others are saying. So,
no, I would agree with that. I'll quote Andrew Brandt, former GM there in the NFL, and he's a great follow on Twitter for the business side of sports. There will be lawyers. So, I mean, to that point, and again, like we talk about how messy it is now. Like, it's going to get uglier. It's going to get messier. Both sides are going to probably end up in court arguing about different things. Like, there's no clean breakup. This is, and look, guys, and I say this as not only somebody who's covered the team, but like as a diehard fan of this franchise. Like, this has been a toxic relationship for a long time between the Rays and St. Pete. And, I kind of feel like we're the kids and we're just like dealing with all the crap from the parents. Yeah. And toxic relationships, they don't ever end smoothly. Like, they're usually as diabolical at the end as they were throughout the process. So, yeah, it's going to get uglier. It's going to get messier. And, Stu, feel how you want about him. Clearly, he's a damn good businessman, or he wouldn't have the money in the first place to buy the Rays and do what he's done with them. So, yeah, I think you brought up the Tyson Paul fight. That's not going to look anything like a fight compared to the two entities we're talking about now.
No, that's going to look like a pillow fight. Earlier today, before all of these tweets and information came out from the council meeting, Rob Manfred did speak and said, we're going to let it, Tampa Bay, we understand with the Hurricanes, we're going to let them figure it out. Now, that was a nice thing to hear as a Rays fan this morning. A lot has gone down throughout the day where there's a possibility that not only for one season, you're going to have 2 major league franchises playing in minor league stadiums, but for multiple seasons, because the Athletics haven't figured their bleep out. Yeah. And now the Rays have their own bleep thing to take care of. So how does MLB allow 2 of their franchises for multiple years seemingly to just play minor league stadiums? I mean, is this bonkers? Like, how is this happening?
It is bonkers. Yeah, it's crazy. So I want to point out one of the big differences between the Athletics and the Rays is that the Athletics were always leaving Oakland, unfortunately. And I'm in the camp of like, I hate that. Right. Do 2 expansion teams, throw one in Vegas, throw one in Nashville or Charlotte or wherever else. You make more money that way if you're MLB. Like, it's just crazy to me that they would let a club, especially one with the history of Oakland,
Yeah.
leave that area. But the fact that we've known they were leaving Oakland for a good portion of time now, it does change that one a little bit because, you know, the MLB has basically shown their hand that we want baseball in Vegas. We want the Athletics in Vegas. So that one's a little different because they're happy that that team's moving regardless. The Rays one, like, and this is a big reason why they're playing in Tampa at Steinbrenner Field. Rob Manfred and MLB do not want this franchise leaving town. So I know we talk often about, like, is Stu going to just take the team and leave? And, like, that's a rabbit hole we could go down, and there's a lot. It's nuanced, it's complex. But I'll tell you right bluntly, 100% that Major League Baseball does not want that. They want baseball to stay in Tampa Bay. And, you know, in terms of like the reasons and all that, like, I'm sure there's a long list. It's a beautiful place, obviously, to play.
Right.
And, you know, you do have spring training down here. So it's nice to have a hub and a team where a lot of your things are going on facility wise and business wise. So I think that's the biggest difference is MLB wants baseball to stay in Tampa Bay. They don't obviously want baseball to stay in Oakland. That's why that team's moving. And it makes the handling of the two things so different. But I've said all along, like, MLB can step in at any point and help financially these clubs figure things out. Yeah. I don't think it's plausible, though, for them to step in and figure out an entire deal or entire place or an entire thing. Like the Yankees situation in that spring complex being available is 100% because Rob Manfred called and was like, y'all have to make this happen. Easier for something like that than to say, hey, Stu, you have to build a stadium, because then he's putting up, you know, $1 billion of his own money. That's a much different chat.
The only ticketing app that will give you complete peace of mind with your purchase is Gametime. Why? I'll explain it. You can see the view from your seat on your phone before you buy. So if you have some anxiety about, hey, what am I going to see here? They got that covered. And if you're also getting betrayed by dollar figure sometimes and it says $20.99 and then you go to the last page and it says $50.99, well, guess what? Gametime doesn't play like that. Gametime shows you the whole total before that. It's the opposite of the stadium deal, people. They give you the dollars in front without you having to guess what the final number will be. And for you guys, you need to take the guesswork out of buying tickets, and you can do that with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. You use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Kevin, what time is it?
Gametime. Yeah, and that's a good point, because it's been a topic on this podcast anyway, is if the Rays unfortunately were to exit town and go to Nashville, Charlotte, fill in the blank of a city outside of Tampa Bay or Orlando, wherever, is there any chance that you see that Tampa Bay, the area, would land an expansion franchise, or they would be more or less done with the Tampa Bay market in our lifetimes?
Yeah, so I never say anything 100%, or I should say I rarely do that these days, because I found my foot in my mouth too often, especially in sports and in sports talk. But I would say confidently that I would bet any amount of things in my life that baseball would never return to Tampa Bay, ever. And I think if you're in the camp that believes that, you know, Stu could sell the team and they could leave, that is just naive as hell. And I encourage you to talk to somebody that lives in Montreal as an Expos fan. I encourage you to call St. Louis about, you know, the Rams and how hurt they're still about that. And that wasn't even their fault. They just got screwed by a bad owner. I mean, there's a million examples, right? And sometimes it does happen. I mean, I got to go through my mind, but it's usually in places like Los Angeles, right, where your teams come back. Yeah. So, yeah, I baseball. I wouldn't say 100%, but as close as you can get. It wouldn't return if it left. I can tell you it wouldn't go to Orlando. I heard you kick that in there. That's always a fun chat. Like, and I got, you know, my buddy Brandon Kravitz is on the radio out in Orlando, and I hear him talk about this a lot. I've had conversations with him. It's like, I get where they're coming from, but the big thing, two things. MLB would never let the franchise move from Tampa Bay to Orlando, because that doesn't make any sense. Like, if it's not If you can't figure it out in Tampa Bay, you're not going to figure it out in Orlando. And the MLB feels that way. That's not a Zac Blobner opinion. That's a Major League Baseball opinion. Secondly, I just talked about the money that Tampa put up and how minuscule it was to try to get a stadium. Orlando doesn't have one penny, nor are they actively or have been they actively trying to figure out how to get one penny towards getting baseball to town. And the people behind the scenes in Orlando will tell you that. So just a couple of things to keep in mind on that front of it all. But yeah, baseball, if it leaves, it's gone, y'all. If it leaves, it's gone.
Yeah, 100%.
Would you, and this was a conversation too, Ulises, that we had, somebody sent in a mailbag question the other day. If the Rays became Nashville Rays, Charlotte Rays, Utah Rays, would you still be rooting for this team and wearing their garb, or you would have to find a new team to root for, or just say, hey, I'm going to step away from baseball for a little bit?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I mean, I can tell you, like, I wouldn't immediately pick another team to be a fan of. So it's not like I would have to work through that in terms of like process of elimination. I think from a fan standpoint, like I wouldn't start rooting for the Marlins or the Braves, with those being the next two logistically close ones. I can never root for an AL East opponent. So you can just take that whole division off the table.
Correct.
But I'm sure I could find another team. I think that it would be like, think about, again, I'm using a lot of relationship analogies. Like I hope all my exes are happy, but like, I don't want to pay attention. I'm not following them on social. Like I'm not calling them to make sure they're good. And I don't think I would do that with the Rays. I think I would latch onto a team like the Padres, right? Like they're fun. They're out there. And who doesn't love San Diego? And, I'd pick a team like that isn't a front runner per se, that, does invest in their product and is a little bit of fun. So I'd probably find another team to attach myself to. And, I would hope the best for the new look Rays, but yeah, it'd be hard to support them if they move to a different city. It'd be awfully tough, and I'd have a lot of gear to get rid of.
Yeah. I think we all have a few things in our closet that would need to be moved to another place. We actually had a YouTube commenter that mentioned if Stu were ever to sell the team and they had moved, then they would support the team. But while Stu is the owner, then they would not support the team. Do you think that's probably how most fans would feel in that regard?
Personally, I don't buy it when fans say that. I think I've dealt with so many excuses over the last 15 years of why people don't support the Rays. And I feel like, and this isn't everybody, there are exceptions to the rule. Perhaps the person on YouTube is that, but the majority of fans that blame the drive, the owner, maybe they just don't like the colors. Maybe it's the roster, whatever your reason is. If that reason was diffused, I'm fairly confident you would just latch onto one of the other excuses to not support the team. So I don't buy that. Okay. What I would say, and just because we're on the subject of ownership and like if the team moves, I don't personally have any concrete info on this, but one of the biggest behind the scene things the last few years during this whole new stadium saga that I haven't quite been able to put my finger on, just from different chats that I have and some of the work that I've done on it, is like there's this thought process that there might be a local group. And now I don't know what local means, if it's like direct in Tampa Bay or St. Pete or just the greater Tampa Bay area or just whatever. But there might be a local group that's willing to buy the team and keep it in town. And that supports the idea of Rob Manfred wanting to keep the team here. So I would say at worst, let's just say this all blows up like it is. And Stu's like, Stu wants to wipe his hands clean, right? Let's just say that happens. I would say that at worst, it's 50-50 that the team leaves versus selling it to somebody in town. And that's at worst. If not, there being and again, that's just based on like what people have kind of, whenever things seem like they're blowing up, no matter whom I talk to at any level, there's always this like whisper about how, there's somebody in town that'll buy it. I mean, every time I'm like, well, who? Because I always hear that.
Give me a name. Are we missing billionaires on billionaires that are on the 813? Like, do we have that many?
But to that point, like, there, I guess there doesn't have to be some truth to it, but it's come up so often from so many people that I trust on info like that even if they can't pinpoint it or say 100% or the other, that I do believe that there's a group that exists. And that's why, for me, even if everything goes, to the worst spot with this whole situation, I think there's still a chance, again, a 50-50 chance that if it's sold, it would at least half of the opportunity would be to a Tampa group to maybe keep him in town.
Oh my gosh. Crazy stuff.
I think if you don't have any other questions, Kev, on the stadium talk, I just have one more.
Yeah, go for it.
For Zach. Percentage talk here. 2028. What's your lean that the Rays will be playing in Tampa Bay?
Wow. Man, it's so like to answer that question, to give them even a good percentage, I'd have to have an idea of where they could be playing.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it's tough in Tampa Bay. Yeah, I mean, I'll go with the easy answer of like 50-50 right now. I mean, I know I just used that for a different situation, but because it's tough because I still have a lot of faith that, again, Major League Baseball wants to keep him here. I think there's a lot of things still pulling him to the area. So that's where the 50% of confidence comes from.
Right.
The 50% of pessimism comes from the fact that, guys, like, there's no plan right now. There's not even a plan of a plan or an idea of an idea. Like, there's nothing new to solve the problems. And we've been through so many options. Like, I mean, 50% chance is as comfortable as I can get. And even that feels uncomfortable.
Fair enough.
It almost seems like the cleanest move might just be, hey, Stu, sell the team, make your money, get out, and allow that new ownership group in very short amount of time to work with the city council and commissioners and make something happen. Because like Ulises and I have said, I mean, the historic gas plant district can't maximize its potential without an anchor like the Rays ballpark that would also be used for concerts and so many other events and so forth. And that is a major looming question. What I would be interested in, and I know that Brian Auld and Matt Silverman are, doing most of the bidding for Stu Sternberg, but let's just have Stu show up at one of these council commission meetings. Let's have him answer the tough questions.
Look, I would say that I'm less tough on Stu than most people. I've, been fortunate to have several conversations with him every year for the last X amount of years. And I do think he's brought a lot of the criticism on himself.
Mm-hmm.
He speaks in a way where it's open and it's honest, but almost to a fault. I don't think it would help the situation and there are moments where I've been like, man, we need to hear from Stu. And it does feel like one of those moments. He just has a habit of just saying a little bit too much or having that one line where you're like, dude, why did you add that? And he doesn't do it maliciously or intentionally. He's, again, like, having open conversations when he's in those environments. Like, he just talks freely. And I think it's bit him in the butt a little bit. And I don't think it would it wouldn't benefit him. It wouldn't behoove the franchise to put him in front of a microphone right now.
Yeah. I mean, the people were already so mad about the letter that was written. Just imagine, having
the yes votes, the people that were going to vote yes were already talking crap about Stu already. So, like, even the positive, we're already talking negatively. It's been rough. But guess what? That was 30 minutes of Stadium Talk. So if you were here listening for Stadium Talk, that was 30 minutes of it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. But we're gonna move on because high blood pressure is happening.
Heck, by the time this gets posted, there could be another monumental change. They could, schedule a special meeting at midnight or something, for all we know.